welcome to Mental Health 101, where understanding begins, health grows, and every conversation brings us closer to a healthy mind. And today I have my special guest. Storytelling meant to supersede the norm. One of his advocacy, no other than Mr. Thomas Wilson. Welcome, Mr. Thomas on Mental Health 101. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Absolutely. So I am Thomas R. Wilson. I am a writer, storyteller, advocate, youth mentor, business owner. Oh my gosh, the list goes on and on and on and on. But my focus is serving really anyone, no matter their lived experience, helping them to succeed and also helping people to understand the power of creativity, but also the power of alternative systems. And what I mean by that is like other methods other than what people typically expect. And in my work, as you can obviously tell, storytelling is a big part of it because it is such a beautiful mechanism to help people live their best life.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Wilson. Thank you. And today let's talk about mental health communities. At their best, what is the core human need that mental health communities fulfill that traditional one on one therapy cannot fully address?
I love that question. So I think a big part of it is, I mean, for a lot of people, therapy, like one-on-one therapy, works best when you have the right doctor and the right system. And I think I'm not here to disparage mental health therapy because I think therapy is very important. It's just very important that you have the right doctor, and that can be the hard part. But I think storytelling and a mental health community works very well hand in hand. And I think a lot of people don't realize that storytelling is a huge part of our life as human beings. It is infused into literally every part of our life, from when we reflect on how our day ends to when we're talking to a therapist or friends about what we need, to really even art and our self expression. And so I think when we have communities and we have places that encourage us to share our stories, we're given an additional support. And I strongly believe that mental health care and mental health is best supported when you have an established framework that is less like a linear kind of plane and more like when you develop a building. There has to be a framework, there has to be a foundation, and most importantly, there has to be ways to set up a balance and a structure that is going to support you long term. And so while therapy is great, it doesn't and it's not meant to support everyone in every aspect of their life. We all need community, we need our expression, and we need our pathways to success.
A pathway to success. I like that, Mr. Thomas. So, how do you define a healthy mental health community versus one that might enable harmful dynamics or stagnation?
I love that question as well. So I think a big part of it is realistically a healthy mental health community, I believe, is not going to judge you or belittle you for your mental health journey. Every human being in our core, we all need a
Mhm.
good, solid community, and there are communities out there that are going to try to treat you as like as a system or a product number more than a person. But also, I think a big part of a healthy mental health community is one that genuinely supports us and matches our needs. And I do want to encourage, each of us are different seeking our mental health journey. And so a healthy mental health journey can look different for a lot of people. But at the end all be all, when we are supported, when we are loved, when we are treated as an individual, not our diagnosis, when we are treated with respect and given the dignity we deserve, and really when we are set up on a pathway that works for us and will continue to empower us as the years go by, that is a healthy mental health community. I think a lot of us have faced the opposite. We've seen a world that has judged us or tried to push a lot of medications on us. And for some, that doesn't work. For some, it does. I think the ultimate core of a healthy mental health community is one that does not degrade us, but also one that is willing to adapt, incorporate new methods, and understand that our mental health journeys are supposed to be healing and loving. And really, if you have that and it doesn't match to somebody else's, that's okay. We're all individuals, there's billions of us, and it doesn't need to look the same to still have value.
Indeed, people, we are 8 billion. There's a tension between providing validation and encouraging growth. How can community effectively balance meeting where you are with gently supporting progress?
Oh my gosh, you've got like all the great questions tonight. I love it.
Thank you.
Um, you're welcome. So for me, I think that is, I'm gonna reiterate this a lot. Everybody has a different pathway to success. Everybody has differing things, but I think the core of meeting people where they're at and having gentle programs really comes down to the level of need that someone has. Now, I'm not going to say that we so often, like I keep saying, we all have different journeys, but I think the heart of a gentle program is acknowledging that people are not their sum of their mental health. They are not the product of their trauma. They are not um, a clinical number or an ID number. They are people. And I think, sometimes a gentle program can be tough. Tough love can be very effective. But as I listened to someone say the other day, the biggest part of tough love is not being tough, it's being loving. It's supporting people after you've set them on the right path. And that's the most important part. And I think for another aspect of a gentle program really is something that identifies people are going to fall, they're going to make mistakes, they're not always going to be healthy, and they're willing to work with that person. Um, I have always loved the mentality of when people say, I see you, because it's not about their actions, it's not about their pain or their misery, it's about seeing someone for who they are. And when we implement that and understand that we can create pathways forward, even in our worst moments, we can create a foundation for people to have lasting success.
A lasting success. Well, I hope people have that. On dynamics and safety, yeah, Mr. Thomas. Online mental health spaces can be lifelines, but they also carry risks like misinformation and triggering content. What are the essential hallmarks of a safe and well moderated digital community?
I mean, the first thing is, and I love that you highlighted misinformation. It is, I mean, one of the hallmarks of a safe community is always a discourse. We as people so often are told things that are inaccurate, or especially nowadays, there's so much discussion around um, what is true about mental health. There's a lot of discussion around what's true in neurodiversity. Um, but I think a lot of people forget a safe environment is not always a perfect environment. It is an environment where people, even the providers, are going to make mistakes. Um, some of the best providers and best caregivers that I've ever seen have admitted to that failure. And so I think a truly safe environment starts with an understanding of accountability, but it's also not an environment where people are going to become immediately defensive when they make a mistake. I also think it starts when you start with that, you can create a space where the idea is we may be wrong, but we can grow and get better from it. But additionally, at its core, a safe environment is going to be focused on making sure the people that are being cared for or the people who are getting information are going to get the highest quality care. And I've seen people do the opposite. I have seen people kind of degrade or mistreat people. I have seen people on the other end acknowledge that they have areas to grow, but have created a loving and mindful space where all ideas can be shared and information can be verified. And the two are very different. And kind of to sum all of this up, I would say it is definitely a red flag if you show up to a space and people kind of just tell you what they think their problem is over and over and they don't listen to you. Whereas an environment where someone says, okay, let's create your pathway or let's create this discussion, and they pull in not just your voice, but the voice of everyone you're working with, and they treat you with respect and dignity and treat the information with respect and dignity. That is the foundation. All of this is the foundation of a safe and secure space.
Mr. Thomas, vent venture is a common in some support spaces. When does shared vulnerability across the line into a collective rumination? How can communities pivot towards constructive coping?
Man, so many good questions.
Thank
I
you.
really think. Well, I'm gonna start to saying I think this happens a lot. There's a like working in mental health work. I want to emphasize is hard. It's not an easy field to be in, and I want to highlight like I feel like a lot of times there is a very derogatory attitude. And so when we have a situation where things start to pivot in a negative direction, one of the first things that I would let people know, and in that community, that space, whatever it is, I would ask them how do their people feel? How do the people in that community feel? Because I want to emphasize all of us are scared to a degree nowadays. All of us are worried. All of us are trying to do our best. And unfortunately, that falls into spaces like that. That falls in the spaces where people are supposed to give care. And that carries over. And it's way too easy for that to happen. But to pivot towards a more mindful space or to alter the culture, I really think starts with the people in that culture. It starts with not blaming or judging or degrading people, and it starts with a collective discussion around what we need. Um, it's so important in our world that we pull in as many voices as possible. And it's also so important, and I said this a little bit earlier, to be accountable, to understand that if someone gets upset, there might be a reason for that, but to own up to that is one of the strongest ways to pivot to a healthier culture. And additionally, the other thing that I think really needs to be there is a better understanding of empathy. Some people believe that empathy is best when they are given it, but empathy as a tool leading to education, to empowerment, is best when it's given to other people. And yes, all people should be given empathy, but it's not about us all of the time. And so I think when we have to pivot to a better mindset, we have to start with our flaws, have a very honest discussion, but also a kind one, a considerate one. And instead of it being deficit based, it being a oh my gosh, I couldn't even remember. It had it and it's gone. But a more positive based, strength based mindset where the ideas can be shared with respect and the mindset can change based on positivity.
Very well said, Mr. Thomas. Very well said indeed. So, on identify and live experience, the peer support model is powerful because it's rooted in shared experience. How do we honor that live expertise while also recognizing its limits and preventing the dispensing of unqualified medical advice?
So I think I will absolutely parrot part of that. Yes, the peer specialist model is so powerful. I think that is being proven across the United States, right? Like these programs and this mentality is being adopted in states, it's being adopted, oh, even in other countries. Um, but I think one of the biggest things that differentiates unqualified information, and I'm trying to be gentle here because I have some strong opinions on this, but I don't want to offend anyone. Unqualified information with compassionate and well equipped information is one, the intentionality. There are a lot of people who grow up in communities where there is a lot of dangerous information. And I'm not being political here. I'm actually talking about like myself. I grew up in a lot of spaces where the attitude towards mental health was very dangerous. I also grew up in a lot of spaces where I was not taught how to properly equip mental health care in myself, and I was very judgmental for a long time. And the thing that really changed that was my understanding of my faults, my intentionality in better serving my community and understanding where I needed to be better. But it also was very much rooted in the education of those who were qualified. I learned so much, and this is so true from so many, if we're genuinely open to it, we can learn from those who are more experienced through high quality education than we can from many things. Especially in a world that is so becoming so introverted in what we want to accept. And I don't mean like quiet, disruptive. I mean like pulling inwards and refusing to accept new things. Listening and genuinely honoring the experiences of other people is the best way for peer specialists to get better and more educated. And the reason I say that is those people are brave who share their stories. They are lived experience experts for a reason, but it is just so powerful to look beyond ourselves and look beyond our scope in a way that allows us to better understand humanity. So we have to listen to other people, we have to listen to other perspectives, and we have to understand we're maybe lived subject matter experts about ourselves, but we're not experts on other people. The only people who are really experts on other people are those people. Um, so yeah, I'll end it there.
Interesting and empowering, Mr. Thomas. Mental health does not exist in a vacuum. How are the most effective communities integrating decisions of intersecting struggles like financial stress, racial trauma, or disability into the core of conversation?
So I think the big thing that I've seen happen actually is that implementation of lived subject matter experts. Um, I have seen a lot of programs start to implement forums and quorums. I've seen surveys going out. I've seen, oh my gosh, so much stuff. So many different programs, so many different requests for information. And I said this a couple times, but really, a good program, a good provider is going to start by incorporating your voice. And I think that's being accepted on a massive scale in mental health care, partly pushed by the peer specialist model. And these programs are pulling in community voices. Sometimes it's a very small amount of people, sometimes it's much larger, and they're understanding what the community needs and how by pulling in that information. But at the same time, I think what happens when we do this, and I've seen this implemented in programs, we are better understanding the human experience and therefore better understanding how to implement care. And for a long time, programs are very limited. And so pulling on those voices is huge. But the other thing that I'm seeing really like exponentially used in mental health care right now is the understanding that programs are going to be flawed at the start. They're going to be, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to be able to grow if they acknowledge that. But there's also so much purpose driven mindsets that are being implemented at the same time. And the last thing I really want to say is all of these things on top of like this intersecting idea of financial pain and um, worries and stress and the constant, all of this stuff is also being implemented on a very optimistic basis. It's shifting from this is how we did things and this is how people were treated to a very strength based model. And I want to emphasize strength based is not only focusing on strengths, right? Strength based is best implemented when you look at the flaws, but develop them and execute how to get better, how to improve through a mindset that does not focus on deficits. Um, and so these programs are pulling this in, all of these wonderful things, and through utilizing voices, through creating and maintaining these new program models, and also understanding that there is a very positive area to grow, programs are better serving their community largely because their community is being better represented by these programs.
Mr. Thomas, very well said. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my Abstract Essay is already in sixth season. Abstract Poetry in third season, and my Book 101 review in its sixth season as well. Comedy 101 third season, and my Food 101 in sixth season too. Geography 101 Love Letters, Movie 101 Review, Music 101 fourth season, Science 101 and Sex 101 in its third season, My Baby Podcast, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, my Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Thomas, for someone seeking community, what are the green and red flags they should look when they evaluating whether the space is right for them?
So this is something I could give so many different bits of advice, but I want to go broad just because like I keep saying, everybody is so unique and our mental health journeys are so unique individually. But I would say Green flags you should look for spaces that make you feel valued. The staff is treating you well. Um, especially if you're looking for a mental health space, it has informed and knowledgeable individuals there. Um, and also that you get a sense that you yourself, your loved one, someone you, a friend, whoever it is going to be treated well. um, some red flags for program spaces. I think a big one, and this is tough because language is so fluid as it's meant to be. I know a lot of people think the opposite, but language is a distinctly fluid thing, and human beings kind of get attracted to it because of that. I would say if you're checking out a space or um, you're trying to find a community where you want to be loved or accepted, make sure they're not, and people might use accidental derogatory language. There are so many different identities in the mental health space, but I think what you need to watch out for is the intentionality. If you get a sense that that space is intentionally being derogatory or is intentionally causing harm, or the people there seem miserable, or even more if the staff seem like they barely care, those are all massive red flags. And yes, mental health is hard. It's going to drain us, but there's a very different attitude between someone who is tired and someone who is disrespecting you because they don't seem to care. The last thing I want to say, though, is the biggest red flag. If you walk into a space and you get a sense or you get an idea or there's something on the wall and it does not make you feel safe, don't stay there. Human beings, especially those of us with mental health needs, are very aware of our survival needs. And if you go there, even if it's a day and it gets better, but then it gets worse, leave. Safety and security for us as human beings, no matter our age, our lived experience, is key. And you should not have to stay somewhere unless there's like very significant issues that are arising in your life and you have to be a certain space. But you typically should not have to be forced to stay somewhere where you do not feel safe. Safety is one of the greatest like privileges in life, and we as human beings deserve to feel safe and secure.
Yes, definitely safe and secure. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, Mr. Thomas. Thank you again. So, can you please invite the listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Mental Health 101?
Absolutely. So, I will say I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me Thomas Rhodey Wilson. That is a name that has stuck with me in a lot of different work. It's kind of like a pseudonym of sorts. So you can find me on LinkedIn there. I'd love to continue this conversation. Additionally, I want to say you can contact me at my email, which is ndttrpg@gmail. And I do apologize that so many of those letters sound so similar. I never realized it was going to sound that much, but I'll make sure that's provided as well. And I love questions. Genuinely and sincerely, I love them. And then additionally, I'm running several programs throughout the year. 2026 is going to be a big year for me. And so I do things like Dungeons and Dragons, storytelling, active play, so much more. And I'd love to connect.
Yes, people, let's about Mr. Thomas Wilson, because if you support him for sure, more and more empowering advocacy like this will rise. So, one more question. Mr. Thomas, what is your most crucial piece of advice for someone who wants to contribute to the strengthen a mental health community rather than just to consume its support?
Oh, that's such a hard thing to narrow down. I'm gonna say, um, I'm trying to think of how to say this. I'm gonna say, go into strengthening a mental health community with the mindset that you're not gonna have all the answers, and be willing to genuinely support and take in the experiences of others. I'm not saying don't protect yourself, because you should and you must, but acknowledge you are not the end all be all of that information or those experiences, and carry yourself with the empathy, the love, and the respect that everyone in that community needs.
Mr. Thomas Wilson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Monica people, see you soon.